Hello and welcome and namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Russia terms Trump's move to sanction its two biggest oil companies counterproductive, and the EU's move to shut out its gas ineffective. Global crude prices jump by over 5%. Moscow also says it will deliver a painful response to any European Union move to seize its frozen assets as EU leaders meet in Brussels to plan how to use the assets for a €140 billion reparations loan to Ukraine. US Vice President JD Vance says Trump's policy remains that the occupied West Bank won't be annexed by Israel. Adds that he feels pretty good about the Gaza ceasefire after his talks with Netanyahu. And Team India lose the three-match one-day series to Australia in Adelaide despite a hard-fought effort by its bowlers to defend a subpar target of 265 runs. US President Donald Trump has slapped sanctions on Russia's two largest oil companies just days after cancelling a plan to hold a summit with President Vladimir Putin in Budapest. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has termed this as a significant shift in Washington's stance and a very, very important step for the ceasefire. EU leaders have also welcomed the move.
US President Donald Trump has imposed sanctions on Russia's two largest oil companies on Wednesday for the first time in his second term. The new sanctions were unveiled one day after plans for a summit between US President Trump and Russian President Putin fell apart. Trump has held off on new sanctions for months, saying he hoped to persuade Russian President Putin to make peace despite growing frustration from the Kremlin leader. He also added that he hoped the tremendous sanctions against Russian oil giants would be short-lived.
Today is a very big day in terms of what we're doing. Look, these are tremendous sanctions. These are very big. Those are against their two big oil companies, and we hope that they won't be on for long. We hope that the war will be settled. I think that they'll certainly have an impact. They're massive sanctions. It's sanctions on oil. The two biggest oil companies, among the biggest in the world, but they're Russian. They do a lot of oil. And hopefully it'll push, hopefully he'll become reasonable, and hopefully Zelensky will be reasonable too.
Meanwhile, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, who is in Washington, D.C., hailed Trump's efforts to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict on Wednesday.
What can I do, what can NATO do to support President Trump's vision of ending this war, ending the killing in Ukraine, including what we can do to make sure that Putin accepts the president's view that the two parties should stop where they are. As he said on Friday and on Sunday, I totally support him, and we will see how we can do that.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on Wednesday the United States still wants to meet with the Russians despite the sanctions.
Well, we'd still like to meet with the Russians. We still want to, and I think I had a good call with Foreign Minister Lavrov, and we'll follow up on that. We're always going to be interested in engaging if there's an opportunity to achieve peace.
Separately, EU countries on Thursday formally adopted the 19th package of sanctions against Russia that includes a ban on Russian liquefied natural gas imports. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Thursday hailed US and EU sanctions on Russia's energy sector as very important ahead of the EU summit. He also ruled out making any territorial concessions to Russia.
This decision of 19th package of sanctions is crucial for us. Thank you so much. And today it goes together with the yesterday's decisions of President Trump on energy, also sanctions package. We waited for this. God bless, it will work. And this is very important.
Head of the European People's Party, Manfred Weber, also welcomed the US sanctions on Russian oil, stating that now Europeans and Americans are stronger together. The sanctions involve freezing of all Rosneft and Lukoil assets in the United States, while barring all American companies from doing any business with the two Russian oil titans. Meanwhile, hours after the proposed meeting between US and Russian presidents was cancelled, Putin on Wednesday oversaw a test of Russia's nuclear forces on land, sea, and air to rehearse their readiness and command structure. Bureau Report, DD India.
Oil prices surged more than 5% on Thursday after US President Trump targeted Russia's key oil industry with new sanctions. The international benchmark contract Brent North Sea crude jumped 5.4%, while West Texas Intermediate was up 5.6%. Russia's foreign ministry warned that the sanctions risked hurting diplomatic efforts to end the Ukraine conflict and that it had developed a strong immunity to them. In fact, Russia said on Thursday that it will deliver a painful response to any move by the European Union to seize its frozen assets. Russia's foreign ministry spokesperson, Maria Zakharova, said that any actions with Russian assets without Russia's consent are null and void from the standpoint of international and contract law. The warning came as EU leaders met in Brussels to discuss a plan to use the assets as the basis for a €140 billion reparations loan to Ukraine.
Any confiscatory initiatives from Brussels will inevitably result in a painful response. We will act in full compliance with the principle of reciprocity in international relations based on our own interest and the need to compensate Russia for the damage caused.
Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz has said on Thursday that he is confident that European leaders will take steps in addressing the use of Russian frozen assets despite Belgium's concerns. Belgium's Prime Minister had laid out 3 demands for the use of Russian immobilized assets to provide a $163.27 billion loan to Ukraine. Most Russian assets held in Europe are in Belgium because it is home to the Euroclear Securities Depository.
The Belgian Prime Minister and I have discussed this issue several times over the past few days and weeks. I share these concerns, but he is interested in finding a joint solution, and I therefore expect that we will make further progress today.
As U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said on Wednesday that U.S. military killed 2 alleged drug smugglers in a strike against a vessel in the eastern Pacific Ocean. The strike is the first known U.S. military operation in the Pacific since President Trump started a new military offensive against the drug trade. This attack has expanded the Trump government's use of the military in its counter-narcotics campaign. This has led to at least 7 strikes in the Caribbean and dramatically raised U.S. tensions with Venezuela and Colombia. The strike brings the total number to at least 8, leaving 34 people dead at the minimum. Hegseth said that the vessel was known by U.S. intelligence to be involved in illicit narcotic smuggling. It was transiting along a known narcotic trafficking transit route and carrying narcotics. And U.S. President Trump and his Colombian counterpart Gustavo Petro have traded angry threats on Wednesday as well. Trump said that his government had the legal authority to carry out strikes in vessels near Venezuela, which are transporting drugs. But it may go back to the U.S. legislature if the U.S. decides to start hitting targets on land. Trump also told journalists that he may take very serious action against Colombia because of its role in the international narcotics trade. Trump branded Petro as a thug and suggested that he was a drug trafficker leading his country to ruin. He also called Petro a bad guy.
Well, he's a thug and bad guy. He's a guy that is making a lot of drugs. We've just, as of today, stopped all payments going to Colombia, the country Colombia. Also, the school Colombia. No, we settled. We made a settlement with him. But no, he's a thug, and he's a bad guy, and he's hurt his country very badly. They're doing very poorly, Colombia. They make cocaine. They have cocaine factories. They grow all sorts of crap that's drugs, bad drugs coming into the United States, goes generally through Mexico. And he better watch it or we'll take very serious action against him and his country. His country is what he has led his country into is a death trap.
And apparently another vessel has been struck as well in the Pacific Ocean by the US, again on the same charges of drug trafficking. Now, Petro has responded by announcing that he will take legal action in the US courts after Trump called him names and threatened serious action against Colombia over drug trafficking. In a post on social media site, Petro said that he would defend himself in court against the slanderous accusations made against him in the US by high-ranking officials. The escalating tensions have come as Trump told journalists at the White House that he was suspending all payments to Colombia because of its role in international narcotics trade. In mid-September, Donald Trump decertified Colombia's counter-narcotics efforts, claiming that the country failed to meet its obligations over the past year. Peru deployed military personnel across the capital Lima on Tuesday, following the declaration by the country's president of a state of emergency aimed at curbing rising crime. The emergency decree includes measures such as limiting prison visits to once a week for ordinary inmates and once every 2 weeks for those under special regimes. Telecommunications equipment inside cells will be destroyed and electricity will be restricted to basic lighting. The president led a high-profile operation at a local prison, inspecting inmates and confiscating their belongings. The visit was part of a broader crackdown on organized crime and prison control, which authorities said has worsened in recent months. The new president, who took office earlier this month, has made tackling crime a central priority for his government. Over 23 people were arrested as hundreds of protesters and police clashed for the second night in a row outside an asylum seeker hotel near Dublin. Police launched bricks and fireworks at protesters. The unrest followed at least 6 arrests after tensions flared at a protest at the same location where a policeman was also set on fire. The protests were sparked by reports that a 26-year-old man accused of sexually assaulting a 10-year-old girl in the vicinity of the hotel was an asylum seeker. Authorities have not yet commented on the claim. Ireland's Prime Minister had condemned the violent protests and vile abuse against the police. Ireland and the UK have seen rising anti-immigration sentiment in recent years, with hotels housing asylum seekers common flashpoints for protests and violent riots. Let's now look at some other global updates as well. Well, falcons were on display at the Saudi International Falcons and Hunting Exhibition in Riyadh, where breeders and buyers gathered for one of the largest events dedicated to the ancient sport of falconry. The Saudi Falcons Club now stages more than 120 days of such activities annually. Divers of the Greek island of Sapienza are waging an urgent battle against ghost nets, abandoned fishing gear that traps and kills marine animals. Volunteers are using inflatable bags to haul up the heavy, entangled nets before they cause more irreversible damage to the vibrant ecosystem. Atlico in Mexico recently brought its cultural heritage to life with the Valle de Catrinas, an exhibition of towering skeletal sculptures for the Day of the Dead. The event showcases Atlico's unique blend of cultural traditions and artistic expression during the Day of the Dead season. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address the ASEAN-India summit virtually. And UK's King Charles III becomes the first head of Church of England to pray publicly with the Pope at the Vatican.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. between walkers, money is what money does, and says supply creates its own demand, between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, as senior U.S. officials are in Israel to secure lasting peace with key issues including Hamas disarmament, Israeli troop withdrawals, and the future governance of Gaza, Vice President JD Vance has said on Thursday that Israel will not annex the West Bank. The statement has come a day after the Israeli Knesset gave preliminary approval to a bill applying Israeli law to the occupied West Bank, effectively a step towards annexation. The move has drawn strong international opposition and warnings from allies such as the United Arab Emirates, which called annexation a red line.
The West Bank is not going to be annexed by Israel. The policy of the Trump administration is that the West Bank will not be annexed by Israel. That will continue to be our policy. And if people want to take symbolic votes, they can do that. But we certainly weren't happy about it.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who is visiting Israel as well, also cautioned that the Knesset's annexation efforts could endanger President Donald Trump's Gaza peace plan. Now, at the invitation of Malaysia's Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, Prime Minister Modi will virtually attend the 22nd ASEAN-India Summit on the 26th of October. Prime Minister Modi and the ASEAN leaders will jointly review the progress in ASEAN-India relations. They will discuss initiatives for strengthening the comprehensive strategic partnership. Strengthening the relationship with ASEAN is a key pillar of India's Act East policy and Indo-Pacific vision. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will represent India at the 20th East Asia Summit in Kuala Lumpur on the 27th of October as well. And the East Asia Summit will provide an opportunity to deliberate upon the challenges to peace, stability and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific region. A new book tracing Prime Minister Narendra Modi's extraordinary personal journey from a humble childhood in Vadnagar to the Prime Minister's office is titled Modi's Mission. It's been authored by lawyer Burgess Desai and published by Rupa Publications. The book will be released by Maharashtra Governor Acharya Devvrat and Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis on Friday. Modi's Mission is not a biography but a story of an idea. Desai discusses Prime Minister Modi's emergence as an instrument of national awakening despite insurmountable odds and innumerable challenges. The book discusses formative experiences of Prime Minister Modi's childhood and youth which have shaped his socio-economic philosophy and his outlook on governance. The book exposes the falsehood circulated by a section of India's intellectual elite about the PM to derail governance. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh released the Defence Procurement Manual 2025 at a function in New Delhi on Thursday. Effective from the 1st of November this year, the new procurement manual will facilitate the revenue procurement amounting of approximately 1 lakh crore Indian rupees by the 3 services and other establishments under the Ministry of Defence. Appreciating the efforts of Ministry of Defence and HQ Integrated Defence staff for the revision of the manual, the Defence Minister expressed confidence that the new manual will simplify the procedures, bring uniformity in functioning, and will be helpful in providing goods and services required by the armed forces for operational preparedness. Railways Minister Ashwini Vaishnav has visited the war room at Rail Bhavan on Thursday to review the railways' preparation for Chhath Puja. He interacted with officials, monitored real-time train operations, and assessed crowd management and passenger facilities at the key stations. The minister elaborated upon plans to run additional special trains, strengthen coordination between zones, and deploy more staff to ensure safe, smooth, and comfortable travel for passengers during the festive rush.
तो 10,700 जो कि पहले से नोटिफाइड IRCTC के वेबसाइट पे पहले से नोटिफाइड है, जिनमें टिकट रिजर्व करके आप पहले से ले सकते हो, और जो सडन सर्ज आती है उसके लिए अबाउट 3,000 ट्रेन का प्रोविजन रखा गया है। ओवरऑल 13,000 की तरफ ये नंबर जा रहा है, मे बी इट विल इंक्रीज मोर। इस बार डेस्टिनेशन बहुत बढ़ा दिए, जैसे पिछले साल डेस्टिनेशन बिहार के 7 बड़े शहर थे, इस बार करीब 18 बड़े शहरों को रखा गया। 18 लोकेशंस को बिहार के 18 लोकेशंस को डेस्टिनेशन रखा गया है।
King Charles III and Pope Leo prayed together in the Vatican's Sistine Chapel on Thursday in the first joint worship including a British monarch and a Catholic pontiff since King Henry VIII broke away from Rome in 1534. Latin chants and English prayers echoed through the chapel, where the Pope was elected by the world's Catholic cardinal 6 months ago. And earlier in the day, King Charles and Queen Camilla had a private meeting with Pope Leo at the Vatican. The King and Queen are on a state visit to the Vatican, marking closer ties between the Catholic Church and Anglican Communion 5 centuries after their turbulent separation. Let's have a look at some other stories that have been making news today in the country. The Indian Air Force is participating in exercise Ocean Sky, a multinational air combat exercise hosted by the Spanish Air Force at Gando Air Base in Spain from the 20th to the 31st of this month. The exercise aims to foster mutual learning, enhance interoperability, sharpen air combat skills, and strengthen defense cooperation with friendly nations. Central Industrial Security Force Director General along with senior officers of the force paid tribute to the brave hearts of the forces. The homage was offered in the presence of their family members at the National Police Memorial in New Delhi, honouring their supreme sacrifice in the line of duty for the nation. The Indian Army's Gajraj Corps is organising the Saddlebone Warriors motorcycle rally from the 26th of this month till the 1st of November. This rally is dedicated to the courage, discipline and patriotism of Indian soldiers. The initiative aims to keep alive the memory of their supreme sacrifices while inspiring the younger generation with a sense of duty and national pride. And time now for some sporting updates as well. Batter Matthew Short guided Australia to a 2-wicket win against India in the second one-day international at Adelaide. Short top scored with 74 runs after being dropped twice, and Cooper Connolly remained unbeaten on 61 as hosts chased 265-run target in 46.2 overs. Earlier, Rohit Sharma hit a patient 73 as India posted 264 runs for the loss of 9 wickets. Shreyas Iyer was also impressive in a 118-run stand with Rohit Sharma. Leg spinner Adam Zampa was the pick of the bowlers for Australia with 4 wickets for 60 runs in 10 overs. Australians have clinched the 3-match series 2-0 as they had won the opener at Perth. And India have posted a formidable total after their openers gave a splendid start in the Women's World Cup match against New Zealand in Navi Mumbai. Smriti Mandhana and Pratika Rawal notched up centuries and added 212 runs in 33 overs after New Zealand skipper Sophie Devine won the toss and elected to field first. India's total has reached 329 runs in 48 overs before rain stopped play. The face-off has become a virtual quarter-final after 3 teams qualified for the semi-finals. The 4th spot is up for grabs, and the winner of this match will move closer to book the last spot in the final 4. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India Live. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from across the world as well as the nation on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. Just scan the QR code, download the app. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.